All right, everybody, welcome to We're Talking Sports podcast. As always, here Ben Burns with Richie. How are you doing?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing okay. We're getting towards the end of the summer, so I don't know. Trying to enjoy it as much as we can. It's pouring today, so that's unfortunate.
Yeah,
But
it's not bad down here.
okay.
It downpoured a little bit yesterday. It's been rainy the past couple days. It didn't rain today, but it is cloudy. So let's hope the weather kind of turns for the better here as we head into football season.
You're absolutely right, and the best thing right now that's going on is training camp. Training camp has begun. Today was the third day of Packers camp, so I've been having a good time going there. And now, of course, they had an early start because of the Hall of Fame game. They're going to be playing the Hall of Fame game with the Colts, but now everybody else is starting to report to camp. And one guy that is a surprising report to camp to some is Ryan Fitzpatrick. Finally re-signed with the New York Jets, a 1-year, $12 million deal. A lot of people thought he wasn't going to be coming back, but the two finally meshed and came to an agreement. Richie, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, this is a big win for Ryan Fitzpatrick. First of all, he absolutely got what he wanted. He didn't want, apparently, did not want long term here. So maybe he's one of those guys who kind of retires a little bit on the earlier side than the later. He's a bright guy, so no matter what he decides, he's going to make the best decision for himself. But not only that, but this is also a confusing situation because, we talked about you always talk about quarterbacks and free agents, and Brock Osweiler got a ton of money, and I personally think Ryan Fitzpatrick is better. So the question still remains is that even, the Jets wanted Fitzpatrick back so desperately bad, and they finally gave in to a $12 million deal for 1 year, fully guaranteed. But where were the other teams on this? Nobody else even approached Ryan Fitzpatrick, or there was nothing in the woodwork about other teams trying to sign him. Like a Cleveland or even Houston trying to attempt to talk to him early in free agency. They just kind of made a boom move with Osweiler. So there's questions on both sides. I think Fitzpatrick gives the Jets the best chance to win, but at the same time, there is questions as why wasn't anybody else trying to talk to Fitzpatrick and sign him as well.
See, I'm on the other side of this. I think the edge for this went to the Jets. And I think it had a lot to do with, towards the last couple of months, no teams were calling for Fitzpatrick. And I think a lot of that had to do with Fitzpatrick was picky. He had his career year. He expected to get, a long-term deal like Fitzpatrick got. The first team to take a look, or one of the first teams, was the Denver Broncos. It seemed like the Broncos were somewhat interested in, what I thought, and, Fitzpatrick kind of turned up his nose to it. He said, well, I don't know what the Broncos were offering him, but it obviously wasn't anywhere near $12 million. And then another team was the Cleveland Browns. I think even with RG3, I think the Browns could have benefited with Fitzpatrick, but obviously something didn't work out there. And so Fitzpatrick really did not have many cards to play on this. I did think he wanted, at least a 2-3 year deal, not a 1-year deal. And certainly I think over $12 million, seeing that Osweiler got 18, and I do think that Osweiler deal is what kept Fitzpatrick, so long, trying to get a big deal done. And, and honestly, I think Fitzpatrick was the guy that caved, which is interesting, contrary to your opinion. But I think if Fitzpatrick didn't cave, Todd Bowles and the Jets would have been very satisfied moving on with Geno Smith and then having Hackenberg as their future quarterback, which may still be the fact that Hackenberg may be their guy in the future. But obviously, though, I think both sides benefit from this deal. Fitzpatrick still, he's on a playoff caliber team, and the Jets have a very solid quarterback who's very good with both Brandon Marshall and Eric Decker.
Yeah, I definitely think you're right there. I think we both can agree that both sides obviously benefit here, um, but obviously the differences, I mean, are dramatically different. The things that you said, and I don't know if the Jets are or can win without Ryan Fitzpatrick right now. I mean, Geno Smith, we haven't seen anything from him, as much as I like Christian Hackenberg and think that he can get the job done in a pro style system, which is kind of what they run. You never know what you're going to get with a rookie, and we never saw Bryce Petty. So the Jets are in an interesting spot. I mean, this is similar to the situation that they had years ago with Mark Sanchez. I mean, they drafted Mark Sanchez super high, and Rex Ryan was able to take them to two straight AFC Championship games. And last year we saw the reincarnation of the Jets, where Todd Bowles was able to take what Ryan had built and recreate them in a different way and get them back to a playoff contender. So it'll be interesting to see the way that they go, if they're going to stay good or if this is just Todd Bowles kind of capitalizing on the coach before's build or talent and just kind of winning with what he has now. And we'll see when Bowles players actually get into the organization, so to speak, which way this organization kind of heads, if Fitzpatrick's there after this year or not.
Well, I mean, and I think with the Jets, with or without Fitzpatrick, they're a playoff caliber team. I mean, let's start with the defense. Of course, they got Revis back. He might not be the same Revis he was with the Patriots or the Jets in the first time around. And then look at their defensive line. I still think they have the best defensive line in the league, with Sheldon Richardson, Leonard Williams, and re-signing Mo Wilkerson. And I was a big fan of them bringing back Wilkerson. And then with the offense, I talked about Brandon Marshall and Eric Decker, one of the best duos in the league at wide receiver. And then they got your guy at running back, Matt Forte. So, and yeah, Forte's getting up there in years, but, I mean, he's kind of, along with Adrian Peterson, he's one of the best running backs at 30 or over. So I like the Jets. I think the AFC East is going to be a fun division to watch this year, especially with the Bills kind of on the rise, like New York, and the Patriots maybe, with Brady suspended first 4 games, it's going to make things interesting.
Yeah, the AFC East is definitely going to be one of those divisions that you want to watch out for. I think Miami, for whatever reason, always seems to play well against their division opponents, and they always do bad against teams that aren't in the division. Whether that's just because they play a team twice or not, whatever it is they do, I don't know. But Miami always is a contender. They're always talked about as that 8-8 team, 7-9, 8-8, because they play well in the division. So we'll see what way they head with Adam Gase taking over. But yeah, I agree with you. The AFC East is something that's definitely to watch out for. One of the guys that you did bring up that I want to touch on, Muhammad Wilkerson. I have him listed here because this year there seems to be, I have 4 guys written down already on an injury list of guys that are going to start out possibly on this PUP list or miss the beginning of the season. And Mo Wilkerson was placed on there this morning with a broken leg. So, I mean, how do you think that, he could possibly, his impact, I mean, missing possibly 6 games, because he broke his leg in week 17 last year. I mean, for him to miss 6 games would be something that's detrimental. And as you know, being in Packers camp, Jordy has also been placed on that list as well,
yes,
along with Vontez Burfict, the linebacker for the Bengals, and Desmond Bryant, who just recently tore his biceps for the Cleveland Browns. I mean, these are some huge losses early, and we haven't even hit preseason yet.
Right, some big names, and we, it's so early though. We don't know how serious some of them are. I think, if any guy is somewhat hurt or under the 90% healthy margin, I think you have to put him on the PUP list, or I call it the PUP list. I think the PUP list is almost it's almost a bit of a gift for these coaches because it gives they can sit as long as they want, and actually as long as till the end of week 6. So it's almost a better option than the injured the injured reserve on designation to return, that new thing they have going on.
Yeah, I think that is, I believe, 8 to 12 weeks, I think is what it is, because I remember Chris Johnson, I think, got hurt halfway through the season. Was it last year or the year before? That first year with Bruce Arians?
It was
Chris
last
Johnson,
year. And then,
and he could have played if they had made it to the Super Bowl or something
Correct.
like that, because they had him on the designated to return list. So I believe that's like 12 weeks versus 6.
Right. I think it might even be 8 weeks. But,
Okay.
it's
somewhere in that range.
8 weeks at a minimum or whatever. But it's really, it's a nice thing to do. And obviously, I'm following the Green Bay Packers a lot. And with Jordy Nelson, they reported that he had a hiccup with his other knee, not the one he tore last year, but his other knee. I think that might have to do, it's actually kind of common for players, once they try and get back to running and stuff, they hurt the other side. But Mike McCarthy even said, even if this didn't happen, we were going to put him on the PUP probably until the last week of preseason, really just playing it better safe than sorry. So I think that's why we're seeing so many big name players on the PUP list, especially Des Bryant, who was hurt a lot last year. So and Mo Wilkerson. So I'm not too surprised at it, and if I were head coach in the NFL, I would be utilizing this PUP list as much as possible.
Yeah, and I think another name that I wouldn't necessarily be surprised to see pop up there would be J.J. Watt, who just recently had back surgery.
Yes.
They're saying only a couple of weeks.
Right.
But I think if you're the Houston Texans, you definitely play safe rather than sorry, and throw him on there. Because he's a competitive guy. I think he's a guy. Whether if it's a football game going on, whether it be preseason or not, he's going to go out there and give it his all. And I think Houston makes the smart decision to throw him on there. A guy that won't be thrown on there, but also isn't playing, is Greg Hardy. Greg Hardy is has gotten some workouts, but is still a free agent. How do you handle this situation? I mean, everybody looks at things like what he's going with legal troubles a little bit differently. If you're a team who has a hole at defensive end, do you bring Greg Hardy in for a workout? I mean, do you possibly sign him? Do you just say, I'm not even going to bring him in, or what do you do here?
For me, my moral of ethics code to me is I would never bring this guy in, because to me, based on some of the things I heard, the stuff that he's done, he's borderline evil. So, and I'm not even joking about that. So, there's no chance I would bring him in. One team that is considering bringing him in is the Washington Redskins, who, they had Junior Gillette, got hurt right away. He's done for the year. Josh Norman, who's a former teammate of Hardy and is now in Washington, he said, hey, I vouch for the guy. I would love to see him bring him in. And no doubt, he's a great football player. He's excellent. Had he not gotten in trouble, I think, we might be talking about him as a future Hall of Famer. But, for some teams, like the Cowboys, that, they'd rather bring in great football players with history of off the field issues rather than not. And I guess, Washington Redskins have a history of that as well, so we'll see.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you. I've always been a guy who preaches doing things right, and I wouldn't have brought him in either. Just like the whole Ray Rice thing, Chuck had consistently asked me, would you sign Ray Rice? Would you bring him in for a workout? Would you even give him the time of day? I don't think so. I mean,
No.
It's just one of those situations. I get guys make mistakes. Certain things are forgivable, and certain things aren't. And just the whole way that this Greg Hardy situation is playing out, no matter how good of a football player he is or not, I don't think he's one of those guys who's going to be deemed untouchable. And I think he's going to be in a similar situation as Ray Rice.
Yeah, I think this is a perfect transition to another guy who's been in trouble a lot and is seeming to return soon is Josh Gordon. Now, Josh Gordon has an interesting case. Now, he was reinstated by the NFL, will be suspended for the first 4 games, but despite what the NFL policy is, he's going to be able to be with the team during that time. He's not going to be able to practice, but he's going to be able to be around the team and, I guess, congregate with his teammates. Before I go on my little rant, what do you think about that?
I think I think this is I don't want to say an accident per se, but I think what's going to help Josh Gordon is he now has a player on the roster who is familiar with him and can help possibly keep him out of trouble.
Yeah.
And that's RG3.
Yep.
RG3 and Josh Gordon both went to Baylor together. And when RG3 got drafted, I believe Josh Gordon came out that same year in the supplemental draft because he was dismissed from the Baylor program. But it was after his junior season, so he was draft eligible. But RG3 vouched for him through the media and things like that, and talked about how much he wanted Washington to use a high pick on him because he thought that Gordon would be a big benefit to the Redskins back then. And obviously, we see what he can do athletically. I mean, he's a very gifted player. He was probably the only bright spot for the Cleveland Browns when he is on the field, at that time. And I think putting him back with RG3 hopefully can help him right the ship because he is a heck of a ball player. And guys like that, you want to see them do well, and you want to be able to see them perform. So I'm just hoping that this can kind of be a blessing in disguise with them, signing RG3 and getting Josh Gordon back simultaneously.
Let me just say, right off the bat, I think when he's on the field, I think Josh Gordon's a top 3 receiver. Number 3 behind Antonio Brown and Julio. But all that aside, Josh Gordon, I think, his issue is marijuana. It seems like every time he takes a test, he's tested positive. And that's what gets him knocked out of the league. I think he has a problem. I honestly think it's almost an issue of addiction, and the best way to cope with that is to build around his team and his teammates to help him out. When he's suspended, he can't see anyone, and that that really sucks. But it's what the league says. But now he can be around the team who can help him out. And you said RG3. RG3 said, he and Josh Gordon are like family. Great. I think that Gordon would benefit if he even moved in with Griffin. And I think Hugh Jackson is going to be one of the best head coaches to deal with these kind of players. Because Hugh Jackman is just an awesome mentor. And
Hugh Jackson, not Wolverine, baby. Not Wolverine.
Oh, did I say Hugh Jackman?
You did.
I got Wolverine right behind me, so yes, Hugh Jackson. So yeah, no, Hugh Jackman's a good mentor too, but Hugh Jackson is a guy that I think he's a player's coach, and he's dealt with several guys like Josh Gordon, so I think this is the best issue for him. Of course, a lot of people are whining, saying, "Well, why can't Tom Brady, be around the team?" Well, that's a different situation entirely. Tom Brady has said it's more likely, probable than not, whether you say that's guilty of deflating footballs, and even during the process, he didn't even cooperate with the league. So that tells me he's guilty. Plus the whole destroying his cell phone thing. Don't call me a judge or anything, but I'm gonna slam the gavel here and say he's guilty.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, there's all this talk, whether politically or not, about marijuana, and a lot of players have started to come out and talk about marijuana, whether they're in support of it, against it. Eugene Monroe, one of the players who just recently retired this past week, was in a similar situation where he spoke out openly about wanting, about legalizing marijuana and how he thought that it was a good thing. As it can help them deal with injuries,
right.
It takes away the numbing, the pain and things like that. For Josh Gordon's sake, I mean, we have seen some very good players who have had issues with marijuana in the past. I mean, Ricky Williams, obviously being one, who still had a very great career. I mean, 10,000 yards as a running back. Now, you take away all the games that he was suspended, I mean, you might be talking about one of the greatest running backs to ever have played the game.
Correct.
And talent alone, he is one of the greatest running backs that we've ever seen play the game.
Uh-huh.
And another one more recently, whose suspensions did not necessarily get to the year length, but Von Miller was a player, early in his career, his first couple years, who had been suspended a couple of games for for failing a test due to marijuana as well. I'm just hoping that Josh Gordon can kind of follow the trend. Ricky Williams was able to pass his drug tests to finish out the rest of his career,
Yeah.
in Miami for those last couple of years, and obviously Von Miller now has avoided getting in trouble and is now a Super Bowl MVP. That Josh Gordon can kind of right the ship here and stay on the narrow, because like you said, Josh Gordon on the field is easily a top 10, top 5 wide receiver. You even went as far as to say top 3 in the league.
And, let's be honest. I think a lot of the players in the league smoke weed. It is what it is, but the only people that are in the news about it is the guys that can't pass their tests, It just, when you like, most people know when the drug tests are coming.
But they're actually very random. I do know from having talked to, I guess not myself per se, but through others. Brandon Brooks, who is with the Houston Texans and Philadelphia Eagles now. We've just talked to him about some of the rules and stuff that the NFL does. That he had mentioned they don't know when it's coming. It's just kind of you show up and there it is. Hey, today's your day. You don't really know necessarily when that's coming. And if and I think that's across sports in general. I mean, Ryan Braun was surprised. The only reason Ryan Braun failed was because the day that he took the drug that was helping him heal, he took it that morning, and he was then called for his drug test. You don't necessarily always know when it's coming because it is random. I mean, whether it's only once or twice, I think they know the number of times that they're going to get tested, but they don't necessarily know the date of when they're going to get tested.
But, okay, so then I just have this question to Josh Gordon and, Ricky Williams and everybody else that failed the drug test. Is marijuana, is it worth it? Is it worth risking your career, risking millions for? And, if the question is not no, you might as well just retire because you don't deserve to play in the NFL.
No, I completely agree. I know this is a show that we should probably not mention, but we both know people who indulge in marijuana.
Correct.
There's no, but I have had conversations with them and they have even made comments about how these athletes are so dumb and so loose with it that it's, if you're a professional athlete, that this is what's going to happen. You're going to be tested for this. Steroids you're getting tested for, marijuana, drug, whatever it is, you're getting tested for it. If you fail that test, that is 100% on you being an idiot. That's really what it comes down to. Yeah, and like you said, if you're willing to throw away millions of dollars, you're in the wrong business, man. You might as well just go home and call it a day because you're never going to play under Roger Goodell. That's just the reality.
Yes. And speaking of marijuana and stupid people, have you seen the video of Alden Smith?
I figured we were going to get there. I just saw it for the first time yesterday. How can you be so dumb?
So, okay, it's for those of you that don't know, somebody, we're not going to say it's Alden Smith, but somebody posted a video on Periscope, and this person is smoking weed, and this person's girlfriend or friend, I don't know who it is, and this girl's like, what are you doing? Like, this is completely stupid. Why are you smoking right in front of the camera? And this guy is like, well, no, it's okay. It's not like I'm saying I'm Alden Smith or anything. Dude. And then
he shows it to the camera.
Yes. Yep, and then of course, this video is released or whatever, and when people ask Alden Smith about it, he says, "Oh, it wasn't me."
Yeah, and I believe that it was actually posted through Alden Smith's account.
Correct.
Too, as well. So you have Alden Smith's account. You have a guy saying, "I'm not Alden Smith," using Alden Smith's voice, smoking weed, but it's not Alden Smith. Come on.
Honestly, like it's so stupid. How
The only way that I can think that this is not Alden Smith is if Frank Caliendo painted his hand the color of an African American
right.
and spoke in Alden Smith's voice. That's the only way that he's in it.
Like, have you seen the movie Zoolander? Have you seen the movie? This is Derek Zoolander, stupid. Like, it really is. And, I can't imagine, what Jack Del Rio or anybody else from the Oakland Raiders is just like, oh my God. Like, it's just, first of all, if you want to smoke, like you said, if you want to smoke, that's fine, as long as, it's worth risking. But just don't record it. It's the same thing with Laramie Tunsil. And of course this was the time when Tunsil did it when he was in Mississippi and he didn't intend on it getting released, but still, don't be an idiot.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
On some better news here.
Okay, good.
There was an undisclosed extension this morning, an undisclosed amount of money and undisclosed amount of years. But Minnesota extended Mike Zimmer.
Yes.
Which I thought was a great move for them. I thought it was a great move when they hired him to begin with. He was an older guy when he got hired, but I think he's the right coach for that organization, and they're definitely on the uptick. I'm not going to say that the gap is definitely not closed between Minnesota and Green Bay. I believe Green Bay is, by far still the more talented team. But Minnesota is closing the gap. I mean, this is definitely a team on the rise who is going to consistently be a playoff contender. I don't want to say Super Bowl contender quite yet. I think they're still missing a lot of some big key pieces here, and especially with AP aging. But Mike Zimmer he's probably one of the better coaches in the league.
Absolutely, and he was. Right when he got to Cincinnati, he was one of the best defensive coordinators for a decade straight, and getting hired by the Vikings came way. He should have been hired as a head coach a long time ago. And Minnesota was finally the team that pulled the trigger, and this Mike Zimmer is an old-fashioned kind of head coach, and the players love him, and I think that's what's important when you need your team to rally around your head coach, and the fact that that Zimmer is able to put his old-time philosophies into this new modern game. I think it's great, and like I said, that the players are able to support Zimmer. And as for the Vikings, it really all comes down to Teddy Bridgewater, and I think Bridgewater is a fantastic quarterback. Obviously, it helps that he has Adrian Peterson in the backfield with him. We'll see how Laquan Treadwell does. And I think it's going to be Packers-Vikings for a very long time in the NFC North. Both have very good quarterbacks, very good head coaches. It's going to be hard for the Bears and the Lions to kind of get in there as well. So we'll see.
Yeah. I think the NFC North is definitely Detroit. I think has kind of, obviously with the retirement of Calvin Johnson, you don't expect that. But Jim Caldwell is a very good head coach, and I think John Fox is as well, where we could be talking about the NFC North being the best division in football once again. I mean, once upon a time, they were putting 3 teams into the playoffs or fighting for playoff position, and I think that's very, very reachable. Another thing that, we're talking about coaches, I was going to bring it up before, but you had transitioned into Alden Smith, and this was related to the Josh Gordon situation. So I had found out yesterday, I did not know this. Cleveland has hired Chad Ochocinco as a wide receiver coach.
Yes.
That blew my mind.
Yeah, apparently he went to Hugh Jackson and he asked, hey, I want to get into coaching. And, Hugh being a former coach in Cincinnati, hooked him up.
Yeah, I
So,
guess. I mean, hooked him up. I guess is the way to go. I guess.
yeah.
But, man, I never thought that I would be ever be saying Coach Ocho Cinco for the
Right.
Cleveland Browns.
Right, and it's because of his maturity. Obviously, I think in Cincinnati he was known as a very exuberant player. Obviously, at any time he went in the end zone, he had some kind of dance or celebration or future Hall of Fame coat to put on, and you just never saw him as a guy that would end up becoming a coach. And
Right.
of course, when you remember when he went to New England, he had troubles remembering the playbook.
Yeah.
Which, so, do you want this guy as a head coach? I don't know. And on top of that, now he's going to be coaching Josh Gordon. So
Yeah. Yeah. Of all people.
right. So I don't know. I don't know about that. But if Hugh Jackson trusts him, um, we'll see. I don't know. So,
I know you're not a big baseball guy, but some big news
okay.
this past week was Chris Sale. On Saturday, Chris Sale was
Right.
scheduled to pitch, and the White Sox were going with an old school jersey, retro jersey, that he had told the team before this game that he would not wear. He would not wear it. This was previously discussed. So the team decided to go ahead and let him pitch on that day and wear those uniforms. So Chris Sale decided that he was going to cut his collar off and cut the collar off of all the shirts of his teammates as well. And this resulted in a 5-day suspension coming to the trade deadline. So things are kind of swirling. Sale will not be traded. I will say that. That he is one of the best pitchers in the game.
Correct.
So I will say, do not expect him to
We
be
just
traded.
we just saw one of the best closers in the game get traded, but
Yes, a Aroldis Chapman going to the Cubs. But, I mean, something this silly definitely has
right.
to be able to be avoided. Especially with something like baseball where you can just switch a pitcher. You know what I mean?
Right.
A day in rotation
Right.
or schedule that jersey for a different day.
Right.
But, I mean, with everything that happened with Adam LaRoche in the spring training where they just up and told him, your kid is not allowed in the dugout anymore. He retires. And now Chris Sale, who was very vocal about that situation, and now has done this. I mean, are the White Sox trying to piss everybody off? That's a great player for them?
No, it's a funny situation, and this really isn't the first time we've seen players having issues with jerseys or whatever. Remember I think it was this season. During the regular season, the Cleveland Cavaliers were wearing their black T-shirt jerseys, and LeBron was just having a bad shooting night, and just going down the court, he ripped off one of the sleeves, in anger, and it was because these sleeves are too tight on me, and obviously he ended up playing well later in the season because they wore the tees Game 7 and won that game, but I think this has a lot to do with just marketing and sales. With the White Sox throwback jerseys, I'm sure they wanted to sell some of them, and what better way to sell them than having your top, Cy Young candidate, throwing pitches wearing that throwback jersey. And it really goes to show you that teams are more, they want to make money more than win championships. And I'm not saying that the White Sox are, want to they want to make money more than win a championship, but there needs to be a line where marketing takes a backseat to the actual players and the team. So I don't know that a system needs to be made there. I don't think, sure, he should have been suspended, whatever, but I don't think you can blame him too much.
Yeah, and I mean, how much of this is also going to definitely be affected as we go forward with the NBA looking to put sponsorships on their jerseys?
Sure.
I mean, I think it's dumb to begin with. I mean, obviously somebody likes the idea that it's consistently talked about and moving forward. And I think Toronto Raptors have already come to an agreement where they're going to start having advertisements on their jerseys. So obviously somebody likes this idea. But I just, like you said, I don't understand why people assume that this is okay. I would feel like the way that your players perform best is when they're comfortable.
Right.
And if you're going to force them to wear something like LeBron is not a small guy.
No.
So if you throw him in an Under Armour, short sleeve, it's going to be tight. He's 6'9", 250 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, unless you're going to give him a 4X where it's like a dress, I mean, it doesn't make sense. And at some point, I think too many owners are more about the business side than they are about the player side. And that's why I want to give credit to your owner, Mark Cuban, who's very much for players. But it just seems too many owners are just out to make their money back on their investment versus actually try to win championships, like you said.
Yeah, kind of a bummer though, but it is what it is.
Yep. Speaking of LeBron, not Coach LeBron, but Coach Tyronn Lue got an extension. What was it? 5 years, $35 million. I think for any coach in Cleveland, this is too much because we obviously know LeBron is the one running that team, not the guy in the suit on the sideline. But what was your take on this? I mean, this was obviously, I think, a decision made because they won the finals. But is Tyronn Lue the guy?
Well, to me, the best head coach in Cleveland is a guy that LeBron can respect. And, going back to his first time in Cleveland, with Mike Brown, I don't know if that really worked out. And then once Mike Brown got fired, they hired Byron Scott. And that was right during the offseason, before LeBron even made a decision where he went. And obviously, he must have not have really liked that choice because he went to Miami. And I think Eric Spoelstra was a great match for LeBron because Spoelstra knew that LeBron knew the game probably just as well, if not better, than him. So he let him kind of go off, do his thing with D. Wade, and they almost worked together as a partnership. And then his second time around in Cleveland, him and David Blatt, I think they should have kept David Blatt, but something didn't work there. But I think Tyronn Lue is very similar to Spoelstra in that, he knows what a basketball genius LeBron is. So instead of telling him what to do, they're working together and kind of a bit of a democracy. And I think keep LeBron happy. That's my advice.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. I mean, it's not necessarily related to Tyronn Lue specifically.
Yeah.
But you see some guys more so like Tyronn Lue, played in the NBA. Was an assistant. Kevin Ollie played in the NBA.
Yeah.
He was considered at one day to eventually leave UConn for an NBA job. Watson was the interim coach for the Phoenix Suns. Was an NBA player.
He's a head coach for the Suns now.
He is a head. Okay,
he's
another head coach. Former NBA player. Where Phil Jackson was an NBA player. Bill
Yep.
Russell.
Yep.
Byron Scott
Yep.
with the Lakers is Doc Rivers. But then you also have guys like Eric Spoelstra who made his living. He was a camera guy first and just kind of worked up the coaching ranks. Rick Carlisle. I'm sure these guys played at least college basketball.
Carlisle played for the Celtics.
Okay, so Rick Carlisle. I'm trying to think of some other guys that didn't necessarily play in the NBA. Popovich, Brad Stevens. Wasn't an NBA guy.
Brett
either.
Brown.
So let me ask you this, and Jason Kidd is a player. Was another player. So let me ask you this: do you think that we're at some point, with the way that it is going, all 30 teams at some point will have a former NBA player? Because the NBA seems to hire more former players than other leagues do, and baseball. Baseball does too quite a bit more. I guess more so than the NFL does. Do you think at some point all 30 teams have a coach together, unanimously throughout the league of a former NBA player?
I mean, I think that is certainly possible. I don't know when that's going to happen, whether it's going to be 30, 40, 100 years from now, but it's certainly possible. I think the main thing is finding leaderships in the NBA industry. You look at any head coach, you can find where they found their leadership and or experience. For basketball players, obviously we know where their experience came from. But a guy like Eric Spoelstra, he became Pat Riley's mentee in Miami.
Right. Yep.
Then that's where he found, his leadership style. And you go on to say, could it all be basketball players? Yeah, I think so. Unfortunately, because people like you and me who are trying to get into the industry, it's so difficult now. Because everybody wants to, but they have so limited numbers. And back in 20, 30 years from now, if you wanted a job, you just had to know a guy. And you'd become a video assistant, and 20 years later, you're the head coach for the Miami Heat. So, it's super tough to get into. So I don't know if it's going to be 30, but 28 or 29, because because I think Popovich is going to be a coach forever. So it's gonna.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. So, am I wrong to say that if Team USA does not win the gold this year, it is an absolute disgrace or bust with the way that they've been playing so far?
I think if they're not undefeated, it'll be a disgrace or a bust.
Yeah, I mean, just the way that they have. I mean, now granted, this is a China team without some of their without Yao Ming, who's probably the best player that we've ever seen in the history of China natives basketball. And then they also played a couple of other teams that they just dismantled.
Right, they dominated Argentina.
Yeah, Argentina was one that kind of surprised me. I guess I didn't think that the score would look as bad as it did. If somebody were to beat the USA, I mean, who would it be? I guess. But also at the same time, I mean, how much of the backups are we going to see? I mean, could the USA put the select team out there and win a gold this year? Is it just basketball across the planet is getting worse? Or are we just that far ahead of the game with the athletic ability and coaching that we have here in America to help develop these players to this level?
Oh, yeah, it's definitely the athletic ability. I think you compare our 12 guys to everybody else's 12 guys, and far and away, USA is the most athletic team. Even if you took away, Kevin Durant and Kyrie and the entire starting five. You asked who our biggest competition is. I think it is Spain. We played Spain in the 2008 gold medal game and the 2012 gold medal game. It'll probably, if we do play them again, it will be in that game. We're in I think we're in Group A, which I think our toughest competition there is Argentina. So, we saw how they played against them. They're going to win the gold medal. I think the question is, are they going to win every game? Don't bet that on Vegas, because, you're probably not going to get much money back on it. Because they will win every game. I will go on to say that. It's going to be a wash.
So let me ask you this: with obviously we do see some players who are still in the college game. I mean, Ben Simmons was just recently drafted. Will be playing with Australia.
No, he will not. I don't think he will.
He's not playing.
Nope,
but I think if he does play, it would be with Australia.
Correct.
Right. Buddy Hield would be playing with the Bahamas.
Well, and they're not even in the Olympics.
Right, and Inez Cantor would be playing for Turkey. So we do get some college guys who come over, or guys that come over and play college basketball. That would be obviously Andrew Bogut, another that would be from another country. So let me ask you this: we had the situation. What was it? In the Olympics with the hockey team. That the movie was based on, where the USA upset Canada and went on to win a gold medal, and they had all college players. It was an amateur team that was put together. Is it to the point now where maybe this is something that USA Basketball looks at doing? Just because, why would a guy like LeBron, like a KD, continue to play if this is going to continuously happen? I mean, I get it. I understand the purpose of playing, and being a representative of your country and playing in the Olympics. Not everybody gets to do that. But if the games are going to continue to look this way, and America is so far ahead of everybody else, why not get players like Brandon Ingram, who's just coming out of college? Just to name some guys. Maybe Anthony Davis when he was first coming in. Some guys that maybe going into their rookie season or are still in college. Younger guys in versus sending over the top 12 players in the NBA.
Well, it did used to be that way. The last year they did that was in '88, and then of course the next time after that was 1992. And I don't have to tell you how good of a team that was. But before the Dream Team, USA was really just I can't tell you how many times they won the gold medal, but they certainly the games were a lot more closer. Let's just say that. But with the pro teams, they've won the gold medal every year. Besides 2004. So, I mean, I don't know. I enjoy watching this team come together. I think it's fun. And I think guys like LeBron and KD and Carmelo, who's looking to become the first player ever to win 3 gold medals for the Team USA basketball team. I think it's fun to see those guys come together. I don't I don't really know if they should be just college players. I don't know if every team would have to do that, but I don't know.
Okay.
I have no opinion on that.
Yeah. All right. Well, I got some big news today.
Oh.
I know you are a Badger fan.
Oh.
I don't know how closely you follow Badger football, but there was some news today that a transfer from the University of Alabama will be coming to the University of Wisconsin.
All right.
My initial thought was anybody from the University of Alabama, I am willing to take him, get him signed up, and let's play ball. His name is Christian Bell. He's an outside linebacker.
All right.
He was gray-shirted when he went to Alabama, meaning he had to pay his way for a year and then went on scholarship the next year. That is versus redshirting, you're still on scholarship and you just work out with the team.
Right.
Gray shirt is essentially you have to pay your way as a walk-on, and then you'll get scholarship the next year. But decided that he was going to leave, and one of his high school teammates is here playing with the Badgers, and decided that Wisconsin was the right fit for him. So he'll have 4 years of eligibility when he becomes eligible after sitting out this next season, and he'll be ready to go next year. But, Wisconsin has had good luck with transfers. Russell Wilson being one of those guys.
Brian Calhoun, another guy.
Yes, transferred in from Colorado. J.J. Watt transferred in from Central Michigan. Even though Watt and Calhoun were Wisconsin natives. But what's your outlook for the Badgers this year? I mean, have you seen the schedule? Do you think another Rose Bowl's in the chance? Do they make the Big Ten championship, or does Iowa take it from them again?
I mean, I don't have the schedule memorized. I mean, all I know it's just a bunch of small schools, or it's LSU first and a bunch of small schools, then the Big Ten. That's pretty much the schedule every year for them. But I don't know. I think really for the Badgers, the big thing is getting this quarterback position right.
Yeah.
Joel Stabby was not the guy. He was not the guy that was going to bring the Badgers to the promised land. Never was, never would be. I think every year they have a solid running game. I'm glad Corey Clementis is coming back. And I think with Paul Chryst now as head coach, I think we're gonna establish, like Brett Bielema, for example. He wanted a run-powered offense, and it was great. Gary Anderson coming in, he wanted more of a pass-oriented offense. Okay, I think with Paul Chryst, we're getting a little bit of both. And I think that's what's going to keep us in contention of the Big Ten with teams like Michigan, Michigan State, Ohio State. I'm still excited about the hiring of Paul Chryst because I think he's going to keep us in contention for a long time.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that's all I have for today. That's all I got.
What?
You got anything?
You don't have anything about the Badgers?
Oh, okay. Well, I for one was not as excited as you were about the hiring of Paul Chryst. I
Oh,
know he is a Badger guy. He played for the Badgers. Um, because even though I wasn't excited about it, I think he was the right hire.
okay.
As the guy, he knows Wisconsin, he knows Madison, he knows the program and the university inside and out. I don't think that there is a guy out there who knows that program better. He was a player for them. He was then an offensive coordinator for them. He's going to recruit Wisconsin very well. I'm also not very high on Corey Clement. I'm not a fan.
Oh man.
He's very talented, but I think that he benefited because of who he had in front of him at those times. As a freshman, James White and Melvin Gordon were in front of him, and he just kind of came in as the third guy, in an as-need position, and played against a lot of backups and a lot of third teams. When Wisconsin was blowing people out, and 2 years ago, as a sophomore, he definitely took over, and had a very good season, while Melvin Gordon was, running his way to possibly, what ended up not being a Heisman campaign, but a very, very good campaign. And then last year, when it was finally his time to shine, where was he? He was hurt, and he was suspended.
Yeah, he was hurt. Okay, you can't.
I don't see it. I don't think he is the real deal. I don't think that.
Well, I mean, okay, we just got done with probably the two of the three best running backs in school history. Melvin Gordon and
I would be surprised if Corey Clement. Corey Clement, I think, will touch 1,000 yards because he's going to get the carries.
Right.
But I don't think it's going to be very effective 1,000 yards.
Okay.
I don't think he's going to be the guy who shreds teams. He's not the guy who can necessarily, carry you, where the Badgers could lean on Melvin Gordon solely to win games when the quarterback wasn't playing well. I don't think Corey Clement is that type of a player.
You're absolutely right in that. They're not going to be able to lean on Clement to win games. The quarterbacks are going to need to play now. So, and that's what I'm excited about. I think Chris can get them into a way where they can utilize the both running game and passing game to win games.
Yeah, and I also think I loved Dave Aranda as the defensive coordinator.
Yes, me too.
It's sad to see him go,
yeah.
and now watch him on the opposing sideline when LSU comes to town. I thought he was somebody that Wisconsin should have looked at as the head coach before hiring Chris. I think that he's phenomenal, and he will be a head coach if LSU has a top 10 defense this year. He will be a head coach next year. I think he's that type of
for sure
of a guy that's going to fly up the charts. So it'll be interesting to see, if the defense can keep it up the way that they've been able to. I think there's a lot of questions to be answered, and the Badgers could slip some. I mean, Iowa has a lot of pieces coming back. And, you had mentioned, trying to compete with Michigan State, Ohio State. I don't even know that we can even put Wisconsin in that same category.
Oh, no, we can't. I'm not saying, hiring Paul Chryst is going to solve, the situation in 2 years. Right. This is going to be a long-term situation. And,
and I don't even know. I mean, as long as Jim Harbaugh is in Michigan and Urban Meyer is in Ohio State, Wisconsin will probably the best case scenario is making it to the Big Ten championship, representing the West, and that's about as far as it's going to go for them until those two guys leave the Big Ten.
Hey, Capital One Bowl all the way, baby. That's what I'm talking about.
All right. That's all I got on
All right, well, I still have plenty.
Okay, go ahead.
Of course, we've probably been talking about this a lot. It's mostly my fault, but we've been talking about the top 100 players in the NFL. How much we don't like it. A lot of other people have been arguing or complaining about the top 100. So, the NFL.com, their writers came out with the top 100. NFL.com, top 100 players.
Look, I want to say this before you go. A friend of mine lived he did. I wouldn't say. I don't want to say lived and died by NFL.com.
Yeah.
But he used it as a credible source.
Please don't.
You know,
Please don't. If you're listening.
You know, he would get information from there and try to use it, or you know, he would say, hey, you know, this is what NFL.com is saying, or you know, looking at mock drafts, he would go to NFL.com and be like, well, this is what the guys on NFL. No. NFL.com is supposed to be the place you're supposed to go, but it's an absolute joke. And this list that you're going to give me is going to be atrocious.
Richie, that is a perfect setup for this. Number 5. This is NFL.com with NFL.com.
Who was the columnist that wrote this? Can I ask?
No. It was a group effort. It was a group effort. Number 5.
The worst.
Number 5. This is who NFL.com likes. Number 5, Tyrann Mathieu, safety from the Cardinals. They really like him.
Are we done yet?
No, we still got 4 more to go. Number 4, NFL.com really likes this guy. A rookie, Minnesota Vikings wide receiver Moritz Boringer. Can you? Wow.
What?
From yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go to NFL.com.
Let me finish. Okay. They might have deleted it already. Number 3, they think he's the 3rd best player. They really like him, Johnny Manziel. Let's see if a team gives him a chance. Number 2, maybe the best player of all time. I think he is the best player of all time, Odell Beckham Jr. And number one, I mean, this guy can do it all, Tim Tebow. Now, I don't know if I agree with that, but I'm not sure.
If this was ESPN's list of top 100 players, Odell Beckham would be number 1. Let's just say that.
Do you want to know?
ESPN absolutely loves Odell Beckham.
Do you want to?
You know,
what?
They broke up with Tom Brady for Odell Beckham.
Do you want to know who number 6 is?
I don't even want to go there.
LeBron James. LeBron James was number 6. Okay. Obviously, this is a joke, but it just goes to show, like, I'm glad you said all that stuff before I announced it, because NFL.com is just so bad. And, you know, those 5 guys I said, they're in love with all 5 of them. They still talk about Manziel. They still talk about Tebow, even though they're both not even in the league anymore. It's just, cry me a river.
Yeah, it's probably, I guess. See, I don't go to any of the actual sport websites. You know, I don't really use MLB.com. I don't use. The only reason I use NBA.com is because they will give us the scores in the box score of Summer League. I don't think it's covered by any other.
NBA.com's a lot better than NFL.com.
Right. Yeah, and I don't use NFL.com for the reasons that I just gave, because of how awful it absolutely is. The only reason I ever use NFL.com is to go look up draft reports or draft, combine information.
Yeah.
Because NFL Network has, hosts the draft, which the guys that the NFL Network hires are absolutely atrocious. Mike Mayock is terrible.
Really? You don't like Mike Mayock?
Mike Mayock is absolutely brutal as a commentator. The things that he says about guys that are coming out of college and that are at the NFL Combine is absolutely atrocious. Like, okay. I feel like Mike Mayock has never watched a college football game in his life. And he played D1 college football.
He played in the NFL.
I just feel like the way that he talks about the game of college football and players and where he would rank his players, I feel like him and Mel Kiper are best friends. Like, I literally feel that way.
No. See, no, they're definitely not best friends, but, I think Mike Mayock, I honestly, I think NFL Network almost created Mike Mayock. They said, how are we going to make this ultimate draft expert, and they had this pot, they threw in, like analysis, insider reports, combine expertise, and they stirred their pot, and out came Mike Mayock. Because this is, honestly, he's, the only thing he can talk about is the draft, because he has built his career on that, and I'm not saying that's a good thing or a bad thing. It's just that's Mike Mayock.
I definitely feel a lot better when I watch the Combine on mute than I do with the volume up. Let's just put it
See,
that way.
I like Mike Mayock. I think him and I think Rich Eisen keeps him at a respectable level.
The only one, like, okay, mock drafts are an absolute joke. The guys who make mock drafts are terrible.
Sure.
Now, I will give Mel Kiper credit. His big board is usually pretty good. But when you put guys like Noah Spence from Western Kentucky, who just got kicked out of school as a top 10 player on your board, you lose my respect. That was Mel Kiper, not Mike Mayock.
Okay.
But Todd McShay, for me, like you said, Mayock, you enjoy Mayock. Todd McShay is the guy for me. I think that does the best job in terms of a big board and projecting guys where they, would go, whether first round, second round, third round. Like I said, mock drafts are all kind of very, very terrible. But McShay, to me, gets it pretty close.
This is giving me a new idea. Our next show, we're going to make a top 5 list of each of us. Our top 5 least favorite sports personalities. Whether it's on...
man, I might be able to name...
Just wait. But guys on like ESPN, NFL Network, NBA TV, TNT, I want your list of top 5 guys because it's a fun conversation.
I think you're making it harder by limiting me to 5.
Well, no, we'll just keep it the top 5. We'll have an honorable mention list, but I want to get to for our last thing today. This is sponsored by Petco. The what dummy moment of the day.
Yeah.
All right. Why don't you take it away?
Yeah. So for those of you that don't know, dummy is the phrase used by Eli Drake, who is a professional wrestler. I want to give him a shout out for that, so that way I don't get hit with a trademark on this. But dummy is Eli Drake. So the what dummy moment of the day. For those of you that don't know, I work for the Milwaukee Bucks. In season and out of season, and right now I'm working with the summer team, and we go around to all these different festivals and fairs and things like that, selling tickets. It's a voucher that gets you to a game. So we're selling that, bobbleheads, the whole night. We're selling good packages and good stuff, and we have a game. A little pop-a shot where you can take some. One of those little carny games where you shoot hoops. It's not rigged, I promise. But this lady walks up with this most serious face looking at stuff. And so I said, "How you doing, ma'am?" Thought she was interested in buying something. And she looks at me and she goes, "Oh," she's like, "Is Starbucks related to the Milwaukee Bucks?" And I was like, no, ma'am. Starbucks is a coffee place." And she goes, "Oh, I thought maybe that some of the Milwaukee Bucks players opened up a coffee shop and just called it Starbucks." And I was like, no, ma'am, Starbucks is its own franchise. She goes, "Oh," and just gives me if looks could kill, I'd be dead right now. And then she just walked away. She was the most serious. I had to walk away. I had to walk away. I needed a breather after that.
Was she? How old do you think she was?
40s, maybe.
I mean, I was picturing 70s, 80s.
No. She wasn't that. No, she doesn't. I mean,
wow.
Maybe she just didn't look that old. But I would say, based off of how she looked, I would say mid-40s.
I mean,
but it was I had to get up and walk.
Let's break this down. Okay, Starbucks. I mean, yes. Starbucks might be an even bigger corporation than the Milwaukee Bucks. Yes. So she thought, a couple guys, let's say Michael Carter Williams and Giannis got up and said, "Hey, let's start a coffee company." And they end up becoming the largest coffee corporation in the world. And to this lady, it sounded like a very reasonable logic,
Yeah, no, I mean, she was super serious. And, the guy that I was working with was was another young college guy, and I just looked at him and I said, he looks at me and he goes, it's like, dude, he's like, that may be the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
And that's exactly what I said.
And I literally, I got up and I was like, "Hey, bro, look," I was like, "You're going to have to sit here. I need to take a breather because this is, what just happened almost put me into hyperventilation." I was trying not to laugh. I was trying not to cry. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. I was so confused because this lady was so serious. I just had to get up and walk away. it was really bad, really really bad.
See, if I were there, I would be looking at her like Professor Grant looked at the dinosaurs the first time he saw them in Jurassic Park. I'd just be like amazed. like you'd be hearing the Jurassic Park music. Like
So,
it just.
so now that I'm done with my story, I heard you had a what dummy moment of the day today at Packer training camp.
Well, I mean, I could name about 50 of them. So, yeah, I mean, if you go to Packers training camp, I think if you go to anybody's training camp, you're going to find a lot of people that just don't know about football or not familiar with anybody. Most Packer fans, they'd probably know, your core 5 players. Aaron Rodgers, Clay Matthews, Jordy Nelson, probably Randall Cobb, and Clinton Dix, just because of his name.
I would probably say Julius Peppers as well.
I think most people, no, I would have said those 4, and then Clinton Dix, just because of his name. Clinton Dix. Everybody remembers that.
Right. I would have assumed Peppers because of...
Peppers is kind of, he's relatively new. He's only in his third year for the Packers, so... So you're going to hear a lot of people say, "Oh, where's John Kuhn? Where's James Jones? Where's these guys?" And hey, who's number? I don't know who's number. And Jared Aberders. He's a guy everybody knows. So that's your core 5. Right. Take out Lindex, put in Aberders. But you're going to say, "Oh, who's number 37?" And it's Sam Shields. He's been on our team for 6 years. What the heck? So I hear a lot of stupid things. That's why I wear headphones. Unfortunately, I still can't, I hear a lot of people say things. Today, there was this lady right in front of me. She didn't know I could tell she didn't know anything because she pulled this guy right to her right, and she's like, "Oh, I haven't seen Scott Tolzien in a while." Like, no, he's gone. And so, like, okay. And then just the creme de la creme of questions. She pulled aside one of the workers. She wanted answers. So she got one of the workers to her. And she's like, "Oh, where's Charles Woodson?" And, and the worker had just the Jurassic Park face on her. She saw a dinosaur. She didn't know what to think, She's like, he's retired. And I'm glad she just said that because Charles Woodson has been, he's been gone for, 3-4 years now.
I think 3 years.
Yeah, and went to, his Oakland Raiders. So,
yep.
Yeah, he's been gone for 3 years, but it's just like, come on. Like, if you don't know something, don't even ask. Don't ask.
Yeah.
Look, there are programs that have all the names and numbers.
I'm going to tell you, growing up, when we go to school, or if you're in college, if it's educationally, I will say there is no such thing as a dumb question. I completely agree with that 100%. If you do not understand something inside of a classroom, ask. But when it comes to sports, there is such a thing as a dumb question. And lady, you definitely just asked it today.
Yeah, so that's a good place to end the show today.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll have more shows throughout, especially since we're getting close to preseason and the beginning of regular season. We're gonna have a special NFL preview show for sure. Yeah, because me and you certainly have a lot to talk about with that. I can't promise how the shows are going to go coming up, not to disappoint anybody. Yeah.
But my season does start the 17th, is when we report to camp. So I cannot promise how available I will be, but we'll definitely get some stuff in there for you.
For sure.
And I'm working on a lot of college football stuff, coming up, articles for the site. I just got on Dakota about getting some more pro wrestling stuff up there, and on Brett about we have a under 26 MLB roster, coming for you, kind of the future of baseball. So article coming for you as well. Ben, what do you got in the works right now to end the show?
Yeah, I mean, article wise, I'm still working on some of these free agent review videos. I did one for Harrison Barnes. I did another for Festus Ezeli. I want to get more out of there, and before the Olympics starts, I will certainly have a preview for men's basketball. So
All right, sounds beautiful, and hopefully, next week